What's up, Renegades? I forgot my New Year's hat. I had a New Year's hat. Welcome to 2024. Welcome to Renegades. This week, G.I. Joe Mission Critical Painting. What we are calling Mini Mondays. Very excited. I really like painting Renegade miniatures. They're so fun to paint, full of character. If you are a fan of the show, fan of me, fan of the painting videos, you know that I have painted a lot of Power Rangers. So any chance that I get to paint something that's not Power Rangers is very exciting. Not because I don't love painting Power Rangers, but because I've painted a lot of Power Rangers. And I have not painted a lot of G.I. Joe. So today we are going to be painting Cobra Commander. So this Cobra Commander, this particular miniature is from the G.I. Joe Mission Critical Core set, the original box. And if you are at home and you're following along and you are painting another Cobra Commander mini, such as the RPG G.I. Joe miniatures, exact same steps, exact same colors. It's just the model is slightly different. Full disclosure, I primed this miniature a very long time ago, and it's very cold here, so I was not able to reprime. So that will be something that that may be a challenge as we start painting. But very excited to paint Cobra Commander. I already have some painted miniatures from the game as well. I got a lot of shadow going on here. Let's see if I can move my light. That makes more shadow. No, let's not do that. So this here is Duke. We've got Dr. Mindbender, I believe. It's either Mastermind or Mindbender. I don't know. I get Mastermind in my head for some reason. We have CoverGirl. And, of course, we have Snake Eyes. Let's check out the chat here, what people are saying. Circle there says, Cobra! Yes, let's go. John Miller, I'm painting He-Man since I don't have G.I. Joe. That's cool. He-Man's great, too. Okay, so, Cobra Commander. Of course, the most noticeable thing about Cobra Commander, aside from his silver shield visor on his helmet, is the color blue that his uniform is. So let's grab some blue. I'm just looking at... we are painting the blue version of Cobra Commander. I want it to look very, very classic, very, like, OG Cobra Commander. Trying to grab my reference photos. There they are. Great. So the first, let's grab Calidor Sky. First color that we're going to use is Calidor Sky. This is the blue. Why do you reprime? I would probably throw an extra coat on there of primer because it's been sitting for a while. That's really the only reason. We may not need it. So I'm going to shake this up, shake up some Calidor Sky, grab my handy dandy paintbrush here. I don't like that one. Let's go with this one. I did get some new Raphael brushes, so I'm very excited to give those a whirl. I've used one of them, but my goal today is to use all of them. So let's see. So his uniform is blue. His helmet is blue with a silver face shield. He's got a lot of gold trim on his uniform. His cloak depends on the reference photo that you use. I think we'll be going with like a dark gray, probably German gray. Red for the inside of the cloak. I'm trying to think I'm trying to see what color his boots are. I think his boots are black. He's got like the leather black gloves and the leather black boots and the leather black belt. Yeah, so I think there's going to be a lot of German gray in this miniature, which is totally cool. AJ says hello, hello. Yo, let's go. Happy New Year. Atomic Ninja G. Lots of people flooding the chat. Thanks to everybody who came out to watch. I tried to set up a palette cam, and for some reason, OBS doesn't like it when I run multiple cameras for some reason, which I never had issues before, so I'm not really sure. But I did get that face cam working, so that's good. And I'll just have my palette kind of off to the side here. I can try and put it in the screen as well. So we're going with that Calidor Sky, kind of a little bit of water it down. We don't need to be super careful here, you know, because again, this is base coat, but we'll see. See, I can already see the paint breaking up. I don't know if you guys can notice that. I can zoom in a little bit here. Boo! I need to get a remote for my camera so that I can zoom in. But you can see like how the paint is not covering the miniature. See how it just kind of separates like that? There's a few different reasons that could be happening. You could have bad paint, which I don't, because this is a pretty brand new bottle and I've used it before, so the paint's fine. I know that. But if you get a new paint bottle or you have an old paint bottle, paint pot sitting around and you're using it for the first time and you're noticing that that's happening, it could be the paint. It could also be that the paint and the primer are not connecting, whether that be because the primer is not good, you didn't get a very good job, whatever. Those are the reasons. You could also have added too much water to your paint, which is also something that can happen. So why is it happening to me right now? I don't think it's because I put too much water. I don't think it's because the paint is bad. I think it might have something to do with the grip on that primer. I'm hoping that I did actually prime this and it's not just me. Yeah, I'm looking at it. It's definitely primed. So a couple things you can do to fix that. Make sure that you shake your pots up really well. You also want to make sure that the miniature was primed properly. Good temperature outside when you did it. See, like I couldn't even go outside right now and reprime if I wanted to. It's just way too cold here. So I literally have to plan out my painting for the next... It's like going into hibernation, right? We're going to go into hibernation, and so we need to... we need to determine what we're going to paint early in the season so that I can go out there on that random warm day that we get and prime as much as I can. Because I just don't ever know when I'll be able to prime again. It's pretty bad though. The pooling is pretty bad. I'm not too sure why it's being like that. Check again and make sure it's definitely primed. I can see the separation of the color primer and the gray that's on the bottom. I'm really bummed with how that's reacting though. hindsight being what it is, I probably could have used. If you guys, when you're painting this miniature, if you want to get a little experimental with it, instead of going with an actual paint like Calidor Sky, you could also throw like a contrast on there instead. This Talisar blue would be a really good base blue for Cobra Commander. I really was just wanting to properly paint today, and it's kicking my butt. Happy New Year, Rich. I had the paint separating before I mixed the pot better after it worked. Yeah. Maybe I didn't mix my stuff very well. It's very possible. Let's move to a different part of the mini. Maybe that'll help. Let's go to the pants here, see if we get that kind of separation. Looks like it's better, maybe. It could have also been when I primed it. Like, okay, great, it's primed. But maybe when I primed it in bad weather conditions. You know what I mean? Like maybe it was too cold when I did it or too damp. When I say that I primed him a long time ago, like I primed him like last fall, I think. Like when the game first came out, which I think was last fall. I pulled several minis out of the box and primed them all because I had intentions on just painting the entire core box in one setting. And that clearly never happened. So I'm just going to keep working it into the miniature. It will stick. It is sticking. I just might need a couple extra coats, which is fine. When I get out the other Vallejo paints in particular tend to paint well even on surfaces that aren't covered. So I might have better coverage with the Vallejo paints when we get to them. I just don't have a Vallejo blue that looks as nice as this Calidor Sky does, so we're going to suck it up and use this Calidor Sky. Hope everyone's having a great start to their new year. Hopefully everybody got to spend some downtime with some family or friends or both. Or maybe you don't like doing either of those things and you are just happy that you got a day or two off of work. I think this is gold. Check my... Well, of course, he doesn't have any of that fabric stuff on any of these. Oh, yeah. It's like a really dark blue scale color. So we're going to have to go with a different, darker blue for that part, I think. This is the reference picture that I'm using, by the way. On my phone. But there's like some spots here on the armor that looks... It almost looks like dragon scales. Oh, I guess it's probably snake scales, huh? Cobra? Ah. Gosh. Could it be the wet palette? Like, if you took the paint from the pot, that might work better. The The problem with that then is that it's going to be really thick, so it's not going to be watered down any. Played some board games. Cobra Commander is an old character. Yes, Cobra Commander, I believe, is an old character. I'm sure he's been around since towards the beginning of G.I. Joe. I don't think that he was the first G.I. Joe villain. But see how all that paint is separating? Like, it's not sticking to the miniature at all? That is not good. I might... gosh, I don't want to switch which blue I'm using in the middle of painting it. Alright, I'm putting it on the wet palette, but I'm not going to water the paint down. Maybe it will work a little better. Again, I just don't want the paint to be too thick either, because then you take away some of the detail. And while it might not be working out exactly how I want, at least now here's a nice educational opportunity for you newer painters out there. In this case, we just have to have resilience. We have to keep painting through it. Eventually, we will get enough coats on it that it will, we won't even be able to tell that we had an issue. Although it might be a little thick. The paint might appear to be thick and cakey because we're having to do multiple layers. So we'll just be patient. It's a nice color, so it really is worth the wait on this particular miniature. Yeah, it's good having, like, troubleshooting. Exactly. It's like we're troubleshooting. The hard part's getting, like, in here in these crevices. At first, I was like, oh, I'm going to try and be a little neat, even though I said in the beginning, like, oh, you don't have to be neat. And you can see how that worked out for me. Sorry, you can't see what I'm doing. I'm just trying to get back there behind his cloak. The one, having single mold miniatures is kind of a double-edged sword, because you don't have to put them together, right? And if you're like me, it is my least favorite part of the hobby, is putting miniatures together. Like snipping them from the sprues, cleaning them, gluing the pieces together. Not my forte, right? Painting, love it. But building the miniatures, not so much. So single mold miniatures such as this, that does not have to be put together, is wonderful. It's like a painter's dream. Well, my dream. The downside, the other edge of that sword, is in instances like this, if this miniature was a miniature that I could build, I would build it without the cape glued on so that I could paint the back of the miniature without running into this issue that I'm having here, which is being able to get in all the cracks. And there's more blue up here that I'm missing. Man, that's so frustrating. So you remove the mold lines. Haven't gotten daring enough. I am very bad about removing mold lines because I'm what's known as an impatient painter. So once I get it really into like a painting project, I just go 0 to 60, and next thing I know, I'm like, oh man, I missed like all the mold lines. I do try. This mini, I can look at it and tell you that I didn't try very hard when I did do it. Which I don't. Again, it was probably a year ago when I actually primed him. So maybe I thought I would get around to. Usually, that's something that you do first is mold lines. Mold lines don't really bother me. If I were entering my minis in like a painting competition, I would focus more on mold lines, and sprue miniatures that I paint from a sprue, I tend to clean because they're easy to clean when you're already there with the knife and the clippers. You know what I mean? Like I'm already clipping stuff and getting ready to put the miniature together. So I will spend time doing that if I'm building a mini. But miniatures like this, I'm real bad about it. Alright, I'm going to hold off on putting more Calidor Sky on it. I think... Cantor Blue, maybe? Let's see. Yeah. I think for, like, the scales, like the skin, I think I'm going to go Cantor Blue. And like I've said before in previous episodes or previous streams, you don't have to use the exact same paint colors I'm using. Citadel is just my preference when it comes to paints. But there is actually a few different conversion charts that I've found online. So, like, if you're watching someone paint, you can, if they say, oh, I'm using Calidor Sky, for example, you can go to this website and look up Calidor Sky, and it will tell you all of the paints from all of the different major paint brands, and if there is an equivalent, it will tell you what that equivalent is. So if you want to see what Vallejo's color is that's comparable to Calidor Sky, because you primarily use Vallejo and not Citadel, then so this paint is behaving a little better, I think, which makes me think that maybe it's the paint. But I've used that paint, I feel like pretty recently, and it was okay. So it could just be a reaction with this particular primer that I had. You know, maybe maybe that batch of primer just doesn't like Calidor Sky for whatever reason. So like I said, I'm taking this. This is Cantor Blue. I'm taking this and I'm finding the pieces. It's kind of like on the hips here. On the hips, he's got these patches of scale. I'm assuming it's Cobra scale. Although at first, what did I say? Like dragon scale? It's still not doing exactly what I want it to do, but like I said, it is better. Another thing that you could do is with a hairdryer, like as you're getting a coat of paint on, hit it with a hairdryer, and it will speed up the drying process so that so that it doesn't have time to separate. Did you see that separation? I put the paint on there and boom, just instantly goes elsewhere. I'm like, hey you, that's not where I want you to go. The gold will be interesting. I also have some brush-on primer. I could throw the brush-on primer onto the miniature, and it would stop this from happening. I feel like I'm a little too far now into the process to do that. Cobra Commander rides a dragon into battle. It's a secret weapon, yeah. Any disadvantage to the dryer other than heating up the plastic? No, you just have to be careful with the plastic. You know, do low heat. You don't want, like, don't use a heat gun. If you don't have a hair dryer and all you've got is a heat gun, please don't use a heat gun. That would get way too warm too quickly. Alright, so we got the two blues on Cobra Commander. I think I'm going to go to the black next. Which is going to be sorry, I'm looking at reference pictures. I don't like his I think I'm going to improvise a little bit here. These gauntlet things that he's got, I think I'm going to paint those with this Cantor Blue as well. Not the hands though, not the gloves, just He's got like these little gauntlets. And in the reference picture, they're a very similar shade to the scales, so... Okay. All right, Blue. I understand. It's like, oh, I'm going to separate right here. This is driving me up the wall. Oh my goodness gracious. You know, they always say when you're doing something like this, like for an audience, you don't draw attention to your mistakes because, as far as you know, the other people on the other end can't see your mistakes. So technically I shouldn't, but it would be impossible for you guys not to see the paint separating. And it's doing it on certain parts with this color as well. I thought this color was doing better, but it's not doing that much better. In certain parts. It's alright. It'll just take us a couple extra minutes, that's all. If you have like little dots where the paint didn't settle, you can leave that. You don't need to do anything with it because when you put a wash on the miniature, it'll fill those holes. I'm gonna grab some black, Abaddon black from Citadel. I'm not a big person that I don't use black as a paint very often. And when I do, to me, it doesn't really matter which brand you go with. They're all the same. I used to use Vallejo exclusively for my blacks and whites. But I ran out of the black, and then I had this Citadel black lying around, and it's terrible. I'm really sorry, guys, that this is happening. I don't really know why. Combination of all the things I mentioned, I guess. But things like this black color should not be... We shouldn't be having an issue with this at all. Kind of cake it on there, see if that helps. Once we get the base colors on, not an issue anymore. I'm going to give him leather gloves. Cobra Commander is a very stereotypical military villain. So I feel like he would have like the big leather gloves and the big leather boots. And then it's like, where is the paint going exactly? It's separating, but where is it going? Because I'm putting a decent amount of paint on this miniature. I mean, I am like caking it on there. Again, if you see any like little microscopic bubbles of white that like pop through, like I'll show you an example here. Oh, where am I going? This way. Okay. Let's see. Right there. You see on his glove, right there where that little white spot is. That's where paint has separated, and now there's no color in that spot. If any of those pop up, you can leave them there, because when we put the wash on, it'll fill that up. Big leather black boots too. Blue partied too hard. Yeah, blue partied too hard. That's the blue paints, the black paints. G.I. Joe. I wish they'd let me play music. It's really frustrating that YouTube is the way that it is. All streaming platforms, really. Twitch did the same thing to me. Actually, Twitch wasn't the bad one. It was YouTube. It's like you can record with music, or you can stream with music when you're streaming on Twitch. But then if you want to use the video from Twitch to post to your the video to your YouTube after you're done streaming on Twitch, YouTube's like, no, you played way too many songs that you shouldn't have been playing. The algorithm that they use to figure out, what's on the internet that's copyrighted is insane. I've had videos get flagged for stuff like from a song from, no one famous that no one's ever heard from before, that had one song, and that song just so happens to be the song that was played. I was like, oh no, that song's copyrighted. Like, really? It's like DJ Louie and his 1998 rendition of My Girl. And it's copyrighted, so we're going to penalize you. It's like, man, I just want to listen to some music with my friends. Is that not acceptable? That's one of the cool things about TikTok. Like, I wish, like, if I were to start streaming on my own again, TikTok all the way, man. TikTok lives just do so well, and it's so flexible with the music you can listen to. The problem is then there's just not any I don't even know what the heck I was saying. There's some Don DMCA stuff you can get on Spotify. Yeah, I've used it. I've used that stuff in the past, and Renegade's fine with me using it, but it just seems like every time I do it, still something would get flagged. I'm going to grab some Mephiston Red. This is going to be for under the cloak. I realize how messy he looks right now. I promise he will look way cooler once I get a little further. So this is Mephiston Red. It's the best red. You know what I'm going to do, though? I might try and change up which paints I'm using. Okay, I dropped my paint. Where'd it go? There it is. I'm going to try and grab some acrylic, some Pro Acryl red. It's bold. Pyrrol red. Stick it in the paint stirrer real quick. I say stick it in. There's always a spot in painting where you look at it and you're like, what did I do? Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I think I'm at that point right now where it's like, wow. It's a much brighter red than the Mephiston Red. But I'm going to use it and see. You can see the difference here between this one's the Mephiston Red and this one's the Pro Acryl. Pro Acryl is just a different brand. I'm going to give it a shot and see if it holds a little better. See, it's separating. I kind of expect it from the back of cloaks and the back of, like in this case, like I expect it because, you know, how do you really get the primer in those little cracks and crevices? Try and just get the paint to stick. I'm kind of mixing those two colors together. Those two paints together. Because I don't want as bright of a red as the Pro Acryl's giving me, but I'm also trying to use the Pro Acryl because maybe it'll stick a little better. For the back of this cape, though, I'm really just trying to get coverage. I really don't care too much with how it looks because you're not going to notice it the way you will like the back of the cape, especially when you're playing. From a tabletop standard, you're not going to see 95% of that. Definitely going to be using German gray for the top of the cloak. I know you guys can't see what I'm doing. It's really like impossible for me to get a view of that. And I mean, if I'm being totally honest, I can barely get my paintbrush into a lot of those recesses back there, so I'm just trying to, and it stinks because one of the recesses I can see, but literally, like, my brush can't move at that angle. And I'm getting red on the blue. I'm gonna have to fix that. It's gonna bother me that I know that there's imperfections back there, but my brush is just not going into any of those spots. I don't know if you guys can see it. Can you see that in the video back there? Literally, like, my brush, because there's like a ripple right here in the cloak, so my brush cannot get there because it's being blocked by that ripple. Let's see if I can shove it up in here. Nope. The other thing too is I could lift it with my finger a little bit. Yeah, let's do that. That seems like a terrible idea, but I'm gonna do it anyway. Oh my gosh. 2024. Off to a terrible painting year already. There we go. I got it. There. See? Now you can't see it anymore. Finally. But look at all the red I got on the uniform that I now have to go over. Which is fine. I got the red on the cape. That's what I wanted. Pro Acryl for the win. Someone should invent color-changing white primer for white and light gray colored minis. The primer goes on one color so you can visually see you are getting good coverage, then dries white. Huh. That's actually an amazing idea. You should patent that and go on Shark Tank, and I feel like you would, I mean, I would buy that product. Because it is tough to know if you are getting good coverage on your primer if you're using a white primer on a white miniature. All right. Covered up the mistakes that I made on the blue. I see some errors in the reds. If you look, I don't know if I can get it on camera. I might not be able to get it on camera. But there is at least a spot in the red section. It might be from separation. It's like, oh, there's not color there. I'm like, oh, it might be because the color separated, and that's why it's not there. All right. Blues are where the blues need to be. The red is where the red needs to be. And now I have one more color left before we throw a wash on there. Although I could put the wash on. No, it's okay. I'm going to do German Gray next. German Gray from Vallejo. My favorite paint color, period. There is no comparison. Vallejo paints come out pretty thick, so let me grab, you know what I'm going to grab? I'm going to grab another paintbrush. I don't think that it would be, maybe it's something on my paintbrush, because the paintbrush is new. Although I feel like I've washed it already. Let's see. This will be the moment of truth, right? So we got German Gray. We've got an old paintbrush. Let's see what happens. I don't really see any massive separation, but it is separating still. And this spot would have the best coverage of the primer. Big, flat surfaces, and it's in a predominant spot on the miniature. I really want some of that color changing primer now. Seriously, Joseph Jones, let's get you on the Shark Tank. But you can still see that there is some separation there. Do you still stream on your old videos? Like, it's so tiny because the He-Man Clash Eternia how to play would be great. I have not in a while. I would love to. I would love to have the capacity to do that. I have played Clash of Eternia, so I do know how to play. So making a how to play video wouldn't be too complicated, I guess. It's just a matter of finding the time to do it. I will say, though, speaking specifically about the He-Man games that are out, in my opinion, Field of Eternia, which is the UK, I shouldn't say UK, but the European overseas miniature He-Man game that came out around the same time Clash for Eternia did, in my opinion, is the superior of the two games as far as gameplay goes. Now, as far as miniatures, of the two games, by and large, the miniatures from Clash of Eternia are better than Fields of Eternia. Or Clash for Eternia. Is it Clash 4 or Clash? I don't remember. I like the miniatures better from Cool Minis, which is the Clash game, but I like the game itself from the other company more. It's just more fun. And I actually haven't even played it, but I've read the rules from both, and I think that I like. I'm gonna have to get a smaller brush for these details. Still just working this paint, which is Vallejo's German Gray, all along the trim of the cape. And it does kind of, so you can see the separation there, like up top. This is all white. Switch out my brush for a smaller spot there. Trying to get this last little bit on, and then we will move into the shades. Let's see, which is this? This is 0. 0 be okay. 0's okay. It's probably shiny now because the paint is still wet, but I recommend sealing it with a gloss varnish afterwards. I don't really use gloss varnishes except for something that I particularly want to be shiny. So in the past, using Power Rangers as an example, I have put like a glossy varnish on like some helmets to make them look more like shiny plastic, kind of like they look in the show. I could do the same with Cobra Commander's helmet, because his helmet needs to kind of be a little shiny. Again, going back to kind of like the classic cartoon. His helmet was always shiny, but for the rest of the mini, I won't put a shiny gloss on. Varnish. I'll show you which varnish I use, actually. When I varnish. I don't always varnish. If it is a miniature that I will use regularly in a game, I will varnish it. But if it is a mini that is going to sit on my shelf as a display piece, for example, this guy right here, he is not varnished, because I will never use him in a game. He will sit on my shelf. And the reason is not because I won't use this character in the game, is because this is not the plastic miniature that I got inside the game. This is a resin prototype before Mission Critical came out. And resin is very fragile, so I won't use those in a game, so I'm not varnishing them. Whereas this Cobra Commander, if I, sit down to play Mission Critical, this would be the miniature that I would use, and so in this case, he would get varnished. And I would probably do something along the lines of, like for his helmet, I would probably do like like an Ard coat technical paint, just to give it a gloss, and then I would hit it with my dull varnish, which is right here. This is the varnish that I use. It's this Tester's spray enamel. This particular one is Dull Coat is the name of it. It just doesn't say it on here. It's usually on the lid, but I threw the lid away. And I don't spray this close. I spray, if you look up here, really far away. I really do it very lightly because varnish, no matter what, varnish is going to change the way that your miniature looks when you're done varnishing. So you look at your miniature like, man, it's perfect, let's varnish. It's not going to look like that when you're done with the varnish. So just remember that. Varnish will change how your miniature looks. One last little thing before we hit the shades. I'm going to paint the Cobra details on here. There's also a Cobra detail on his chest. And then another Cobra detail here on the arms. All right. Had to learn the lesson with varnish the hard way. Yeah, it's unfortunate. It can really change what a mini looks like. I'm trying to decide if I want to hit all of the metallic first and then just do a wash all at once. I think I might base coat everything. I think we might jump right into our metallics. So we'll grab our two generic metallics first, which is Retributor Armor and Lead Belcher. It is my generic metal metallic. I was like, oh, they can't see me. Yes, they can. I'm shaking my pots. All right, we'll go gold first because there is a lot of it. Add some of this to my paint palette. Lots of gold trim. So let's start down here. Let's make sure you can see me on the camera. You can. Just trying to use the side of my brush as much as possible. It's what's going to allow me to do the trim relatively quickly without making too many mistakes. I probably still will make mistakes, but that's okay because mistakes are part of the game. The gold trim is really what gives Cobra Commander his look. So we want to make sure that it's as good as we can get it. The combination of the gold trim along with the blue just really gives him his look. It's kind of what makes his look iconic. That and the helmet, of course, which I have unintentionally saved for last. You can see I got a little gold on the scale there, and that's all right. Just going through and picking out all of the things that will be gold. There's actually a Cobra symbol right there that I'm painting gold. But I think that's red too. I'm really mostly just painting it so that I can see it later and I don't forget about it. I had to bring the miniature towards my face a little bit, so if it comes out of focus, I apologize. Come on, the gold is separating now too? I thought we were doing good, man. I was like, oh, I haven't complained about the paint separating in a while. We're doing pretty good. And as soon as I thought that in my head. Well, I have you on here. In your opinion, what are the quintessential paints you must have for someone starting miniature painting? So it kind of depends on your budget. It also kind of depends on what specifically you are going to be painting, whether that be what you're starting out with or what you intend on painting into the future. And it also depends on what brand paint you are going to use. As far as like colors themselves, you need a black, a white, a good brown, a good red, a good blue. Yellow. A good silver and a good gold. Those are probably the basic ones, but I do know and recommend that you kind of pick on a starting, like decide a starting brand. So there's two approaches, okay? Sorry, I'm kind of all over the place. there's two approaches. Either approach is fine, but I would just pick one approach and stick with it. So approach number one is to decide on which paint brand you'd like to start with. I always recommend, if you're going to stick with one brand, that you pick a brand that is sold locally. So someplace you can just walk into a store and buy. So there's no game stores near you that sell Vallejo, for example. I would not start your journey with Vallejo, because getting new colors that you want requires you to buy stuff online and then wait. And I'm not a patient painter, so it's like if I'm sitting at the table and I'm like, I really want to paint this and I want it to be green, and I look at my greens and I'm like, none of these shades of green are what I want, then I usually hop in the store and go to a game store that I know has a good selection of paints, and I'll stand there and stare at the greens until I find a green that I like. As opposed to, like, you know, looking online and ordering it online. So once you've decided which paints you're going to use, let's say in this case Citadel makes a starting paint set, like a set that you buy, and it's got all your basic colors, and it usually comes with a brush and, you know, a few other odds and ends, maybe some clippers, maybe some other hobbying tools. I don't know what Citadel makes these days, but I know that they have a starting paint set. All of the major brands do. There's one for Vallejo, one for Army Painter, Pro Acryl has one, Scale 75 has one. And then the other approach is to try different brands using different colors, so that you can determine which brand you like the most before you go and spend a ton of money buying different colors of, say, Citadel paints. And then one day you're like, you know what, I'm going to try Army Painter. And the Army Painter that you try you like it more than you did than the Citadel that you bought. And now you're stuck with all this paint that you aren't going to use. That happened to me. I literally just kept hearing nothing but rave things about Scale 75. And I was like, well, it's really hard to get Scale 75 here because it's mostly in the UK. So if I'm going to order it, I'm just going to buy all of it. So I bought like a huge kit, like $200-something. And I opened it, and I don't like it. I don't like the paint texture, consistency. It doesn't flow right for me. There's like two colors in particular that I really, really like, and outside of that, I can't stand it. Huge, huge waste of money, which all would have been solved if I'd have just gotten one pot of one color, tried it, and then I would have realized, you know, hey, I don't like it. So highly recommend that, you know, if you're going to go that route, the non-starter kit route, that you buy one or two colors of each different brand, try them, see which consistency, like focus on, do I like how this flows? Do I like the finish, right? Like Scale 75 finishes in a matte finish. So everything you paint, when you're done painting, it's going to be matte. And I personally don't like that. I like the very light sheen to my stuff. So I don't like the finish of Scale 75, but that's something that I would have never known until I tried it. So go to a local hobby store, buy yourself a cheap, inexpensive miniature, 99-cent miniatures. You know, Reaper makes a lot of Reaper Bones miniatures that are really cheap. You can usually find them pretty easily. You can use like a mini from like one of these games, like Power Rangers or G.I. Joe, write down before you. So grab your mini, right? So let's say Cobra Commander. Here's what you do: you grab your Cobra Commander, you take a piece of paper, you write down all the colors that Cobra Commander needs. He needs blue, he needs red, he needs a couple shades, a couple different colors of blue. He needs some black, he needs red, he needs gold, he needs silver. So grab your metallics, grab, a silver from Army Painter and a gold from Army Painter. So your metallics are from the same company. Grab 2 or 3 different shades of blue from Citadel. Grab your red and your, I don't know, your dark gray. Grab from, whatever it is that you're able to get, P3 or Reaper, something. And then paint your Cobra Commander. And when you're done, you should know, like, okay, I really liked those metallics. Those metallics worked well. So those were Army Painter. So I know in the future what Army Painter stuff, is going to look like and it's going to feel like. It's about feel, too. For me, anyway. Like, I really like Army Painter metallics, but I don't like anything else really from Army Painter. So, like, I'll use their metallics, but I won't really use anything else. For streaming, I like using Citadel because it's usually the most easily accessible for the viewers. So if people want to follow along, it's usually, not always, but usually one of the easier brands for the viewers to get a hold of. So it's easier for them to follow along with me. Plus, I've been using it for so long that I have like a really good understanding of like what all the colors look like once the paint's dry, how they interact with each other. I've just been using them for a long time. And I'm kind of can't teach old dog new tricks kind of guy. So it is very challenging for me to switch brands, no matter how many times I try. And as others will tell you here on this stream, boy, have I tried different colors and different brands. Gold was separated in the pot. Yeah, you just have to mix it. You might have to like really mix it. I'm gonna go through now that the gold's down. I'm just gonna go through and touch up where I screwed up. Some of my blues and stuff, I got gold on them. Sorry, I got a little sniffle, I guess, today. German gray, yes. German gray is also a must-have paint in your paint arsenal, in my opinion. It's kind of like my signature. It's probably not even like that good of a paint. It's just become like my signature thing. I don't know. I don't know if any of my followers have actually like done what I do with the whole German gray thing. And oh wow, I totally missed like a lot of stuff on here that was gold. All of his, I'm not done with the gold, dang it. guys are supposed to remind. You're supposed to point that out to me. Hey, Louie, you didn't do a good job. Sorry, I know I'm not talking. There'll be moments where like I realize that I'm like hyper focused on what I'm doing and I'm not saying anything, and I can't imagine that that's very fun to pay attention to or listen to on your end. So is there gold around this too? I bet there is. Not even close. Alright. He looks way less of a hot mess now. Now he looks like a cold mess. Grab our silver. Hopefully I got all the blue, or all the gold rather. Silver, we're going lead belcher. My painting schemes usually revolve around the same color. Sprue gray, yes. for the helmet. And his helmet, like the visor, the metallic visor, was always very, very shiny. So we're going to make sure that we do like a very bright silver highlight. So this is just going to be the base coat of this lead belcher. I think I'm happy with that. What do you guys think? He has these stripes down the pants legs. I'm grabbing that German gray. That's what I'm going to use. I'm pretty sure it's black on the actual uniform, but I want there to be a tone difference between the black of the boots and the black of the stripe. That's one of the things that German gray is. German gray is just a really dark gray. Stripes on the pants. The blue looks okay. I'm gonna touch up the helmet, and then we're shading this bad boy. Although I could probably use a whole nother coat of German gray on the cape here. If you're going for a tabletop standard, this miniature is done. You just color the base whatever color you want, and she's ready for the table. But if you're like me, you want to take it to the next level, that's what we're about to do. I'm just being very panicky now about my... And I know that there's at least 2 places that have no color on this miniature at all, but luckily the audience, you guys, can't see it, so I'm gonna pretend like it's not an issue. Because it's really not an issue. But the paint is still not sticking. It's like back there. You can't see it anyway, so. Alright, so this is going to be a fun shading model because I am going to shade with 3 completely different colors, and I'm going to attempt to do them all at the same time. Meaning, normally, okay, if you were watching this, don't do it in the order that I'm about to do it. Meaning, if you are going to shade your mini, make sure that everything is dry and you do each color separately, making sure it dries in between each color. I'm not going to do that. Mostly because then we would be here all night. So the 3 that I'm going to use is Racklin Flesh Shade, Nuln Oil, and Drakenhof Nightshade. If you don't have shades, don't want to use shades, this is the cheat code. This is to do things quickly. I don't always use shades in my personal minis that I paint. Sometimes I don't do any shades at all. Because the pros don't use shades. But I do, so. Okay, so the Drakenhof Nightshade is for the blues. I'm trying to decide which color I want to do first. I think I want to do the blues first. Because that is where the most coverage is. So we're going to take our Drakenhof Nightshade. I'm going to zoom this out a little bit. So we got our Drakenhof Nightshade, and now we are going to take our mini, our Cobra Commander. Trying to decide which color or which paintbrush I want to use. You want one that... I'm going to use a number 1, a Raphael number 1. Normally, I would just use the biggest brush I have because I would be putting this wash exclusively all over the miniature because I tend to do that. But in this case, it's not going to work. So I am putting this blue all over the blue. I'm going to be doing the absolute best that I can to not get any of this on the gold or the black or the silver. I just want this on the blue and nowhere else. Now, obviously, like here, I'm not going to be able to not get it on these buttons. in this case, putting this wash on the miniature is kind of important because of all the issues that we had at the beginning of the stream with the paint. This will help some of that. Kind of helps cover up the boo-boos. Shade really is a game changer, especially for beginner painters. It really just elevates what you're doing. It's just, I mean, there's a reason they call it the cheat code. It's the painting cheat code for sure. I did end up getting some of this on some of the gold around like the gauntlets and stuff like that, but overall I missed all of the parts I wanted to miss. Alright, now I'm going to switch to the Racklin Flesh Shade. This is going to be for the gold. When is the next stream? February? Yes, February 5th. February 5th. And we will be doing a giveaway to one of the audience members. So keep that in your back pocket. That's a little spoiler alert for you. It's okay. I was given permission to mention it. But yeah, one of the viewers, one of you lucky viewers, live on the show will win a prize. I don't know if I'm allowed to say the prize, so I'm gonna keep to myself until I know I can share. So you'll definitely want to come check out that stream for sure. So I'm putting this Racklin Flesh Shade all over the gold that I didn't cover with the blue. Like on the belt here. It gives the gold some warmth. Makes it feel and look a little more real. It's the best way to shade gold is with this Racklin Flesh Shade. So if you are going to shade gold, then this is how I recommend that you do it. And then last but certainly not least, we need our Nuln Oil. Nuln Oil is for the darkest stuff. Is it a pot of German gray? If it's not, I may need to... You know, it's not a pot of German gray, but I should totally throw in a pot of the German Gray when I mail the winner their prize. It's like my calling card. That's actually a pretty good idea. Actually, I should send my used pot of... I should go buy myself a new pot of German Gray. Because... why not? And I should send this pot that I have next to me that's used, my used German Gray. I'll sign it. I'll autograph the bottle. Makes me sound like more of a celebrity than I actually am. Keep me humble, guys. Nobody wants to see my autograph on a pot of German Gray. The other time I gave out a prize was the Rise of the Psychos. Fully painted box of Rise of the Psychos. And the guy that won that prize actually reached out to me and thanked me. He was really happy and excited that he had won and he got those. That was a painting competition. I'm pretty sure. I think he had won a painting competition. I'm putting this all over the cape, letting it flow into the recesses. Alright, let's see. I got the face. I didn't do the gloves or the boots. The thing with black is like, do I really need to shade the black? It's already black. I will, just to make sure that I don't have any spots from the primer acting up, but I usually don't shade the black stuff. That's why I go with the German Gray. For those that might be new to the streams, I should probably always mention that, because I get into the habit of just not explaining stuff that I've already explained 100 times, because I think everybody's heard me, and that's not true. So the reason that I like German Gray so much is because I am of the mindset that shades are amazing. I use them all the time. And how do you shade and highlight black, the color black, when black is already universally the darkest color? So you can't get darker than black. Yes, I know there's different shades of black, and some blacks are blacker than other blacks. I get all that. But as an overall thing, you can't really shade black. You can't get darker. So I start with lighter. It's the same thing that I do with white. I don't paint stuff pure white. I paint stuff all through in gray. So my two favorite colors for painting are Althuan gray and German gray. So when I need to paint something black, I paint it German gray. When I need to paint something white, I paint it Althuan gray. And that gives me the opportunity to change the temperature of the color, change the brightness and the contrast of the colors, because I have a darker white and a lighter black, which allows me to then do shading and highlighting and stuff like that. So these two are just great. Can someone confirm what he said on next time, Feb 6? No, was it Feb 6? Feb 5. February 5th, Monday. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 weeks from today. And it's at the same time, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. I'm just, see, this is another time that the hairdryer would be great. But we can go ahead and start highlighting this now. Anyway. So let's go back to my Calidor Sky. That was that very first light blue that we did for his whole uniform. And I'm going to go over the mini and I'm going to find those same spots, those same places where this color already was. And I'm just going to kind of re-highlight it a little bit. I want to leave some stuff in the recesses and in the dark parts. And then in the other parts, I want to bring the color back. You don't want to worry too much about the inside of his legs where it would be dark. I do want to bring a line back here. So now I'm going to stick with just the same color, and I'm going all around the uniform. And I'm trying to keep, in this case, I'm just trying to give some brightness back into the spots where that blue wash darkens stuff up. But I'm keeping some of those darker colors in those spots as to highlight everything else. But I have to be very careful not to. Now is when I start being a little more careful with my painting. So I have a cool like audience question for you guys. For those of you who have played both Mission Critical and Heroes of the Grid, which of the two games is your favorite and why? I have actually not played Mission Critical. I have played Heroes of the Grid a bunch. But I actually think I would like Mission Critical more. I just haven't had the opportunity to find people to play with. My play group is very big on Power Rangers, so getting them to try something else will be challenging. Apart from how you acquire the vehicles and Zords, it's pretty much the same game. I think the character designs are pretty dramatically different. I could be wrong about that. Somebody said, like, when you're playing, like, especially if you play with both Rangers and Joes at the same time, you really can, like, Rangers feel like Rangers and Joes feel like something completely different. So it doesn't feel like you're just recycling. I got some blue where I didn't want the blue. Got to grab my German gray. Yeah, so mechanically, it's pretty much the same game. Flavor-wise, they fit very well into their franchises. Is there solid rules for the overlap of franchises? You had mentioned that it's different how you acquire Zords and vehicles. So, like, how does that feel when you're actually playing the game together? time to start highlighting that gold back up, because that's what's going to really add to the rest of this model. We're not going to highlight everything because everything doesn't need to be highlighted. The three things that need to be highlighted most is the gold, that bright blue, which we just did some of, and then the back of the cloak, which we also just did some of. And then we will call him done. I'll have to do the base off camera since we're pretty much out of time. I'm going to take the side of my brush and just kind of like run it over the ribs of this. I don't want to like completely destroy the shade. If you have both and you're up for it one day, then we can set up a game. I do have both. And that's all you need to do to highlight the blue, or the gold, is you just go back through and just re-highlight it. You can also, like, really dang, I got gold on the cape. That's all right. See if I can get it off gently without screwing anything up. Okay. You could highlight the gold more. I don't think we need to. I think it's pretty bright. And grab some Stormhost silver. We're gonna really polish up that chrome face. That's my paint stirrer, if you can hear it. It sounds like somebody's outside my door weed whacking. Whacking the weeds. Yeah, that needs needs a lot more shaking. Let's highlight the red a little bit on those emblems. And then I think we're going to be done. Like I said, there's definitely more. You can highlight the gold more. You can highlight the cape more. You can highlight the red underneath the cape. These are all things that I want to do. Just limited on time with the stream, so I will make it a point to do all of those things off camera, so that when we post pictures like we did with Santa, you can see kind of the differences between what I did on stream and little touch-ups that I do off stream. Definitely want those Cobra bases to stand out. And I think what I would do, or what I'm going to end up doing, is painting the top of the base red. So I would probably do something like this. Some Mephiston red. Nice Cobra red. Mephiston red is a great Cobra red. If I was talented with freehand, I would actually like trace the Cobra logo like on the base, so he was like standing on top of the Cobra logo, but I won't even pick Harlequins as a army in 40k because I don't want to do the checkered patterns. And yes, I know that you can still play that army and not do the checkered patterns, but then I'm like, what the heck's the point? Isn't that like their calling card? It's like saying you can paint without German gray, but it's like, what's the point? What is the point in painting if you're not going to paint with German gray? I said I was going to do this off camera, didn't I? I'm just kind of realizing that I went down a rabbit hole of base painting. Because we're all about that base. All that base. All your base are belong to us. Alright, well. Yeah, so that's what I would do. That is what I would do. Let me... What just happened? Well, I guess now is a great time for us to stop the stream. My light just fell off. How did that happen? Wow. Good job, Louie. Way to screw the pooch. Seriously, how did I do that? Okay, there we go. Anyway. Nope, other way. Come on. Focus. Focus. There he is. Cobra Commander. And pretty good. It's a little cakey. You can see that, like, there's a couple too many layers. But I think that we recovered well from the issues, and he looks pretty good. Looks ready for the table, in my opinion. Outside of the base, which I've got to do. So that's one way to... That was it loud? I'm sorry. I think it was loud because it probably, like, smacked the microphone. Sorry. Okay, I'm going to end it there before I hurt myself. I really appreciate everybody taking time out of their New Year day to come and hang out with me. Happy New Year to everybody. Happy New Year. Happy 2024. Like I said earlier, make sure that you stand by for our next stream, which is going to be February 5th at the same time, 6 Eastern, 3 Pacific. And as always, make sure you take care of yourself, take care of each other, play your games, paint your miniatures, and I will see you guys in the next stream. Toodles!